Mike DeFabo reports Ole Miss QB Jaxson Dart has a top 30 visit scheduled with the Pittsburgh Steelers in April, per league source. Here's more on a prospect who has been gaining buzz through the process. The Steelers' interest in Dart has been quite clear throughout the pre-draft process. Head coach Mike Tomlin and offensive coordinator Arthur Smith spent time with Dart during the 2025 Senior Bowl, and the team held a formal meeting with him at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine too. Now he'll be coming to Pittsburgh in April for an official pre-draft visit as one of the 30 that the Steelers are allotted prior to the 2025 NFL Draft. It will be interesting to see if the Steelers have a heavy presence at Ole Miss Pro Day Friday too, where they could get a great look at Dart up close again, while also taking a look at guys like defensive lineman Walter Nolan, defensive lineman J.J. Pughs, who was already a pre-draft visitor, and others. At the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, Dart measured in at 6'2", 223 pounds, with 9.5-inch hands. In 3 seasons with the Rebels, Dart threw for 10,617 yards and 72 touchdowns with just 22 interceptions. He completed 65.7% of his passes under head coach Lane Kiffin and added another 1,498 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. He earned first-team All-SEC honors in 2024 and was named the Gator Bowl MVP after his final game with Ole Miss. Dart has some good moments on tape and some jaw-dropping throws, but as Steelers Depot's Alex Kozoro wrote in his scouting report, he does a lot of things well, but doesn't have any elite traits. That's not exactly a quarterback you want to take a chance on in the first round, especially in a poor quarterback class. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah made an interesting comparison recently with Dart, stating he has some similarities to Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, as a guy who got better every season in college and brings a good foundation to the table at the quarterback position as a passer and runner. ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. believes Dart needs to sit for a year and develop, so a place like Pittsburgh, especially with Rodgers in the mix, should that happen, could be a very good landing spot for the Ole Miss product, who profiles as a solid fit in Smith's offensive scheme moving forward. Once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at a quarterback that isn't a sure thing. We don't need to take a quarterback unless we know 1,000% that that player is going to be able to function in the NFL. I don't want to hear he's a project. I don't want to hear he's going to sit on the bench for a year. If you draft a quarterback in the first round, with today's NFL, he better be on the field as soon as you draft him. I think this is a mistake, but I made a video yesterday. If the Pittsburgh Steelers are dead set taking a quarterback in the first round, I only want them to take a quarterback from the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, and for a few reasons. Number one, the quarterback draft this year, the quarterback class this year is so weak, probably the worst in NFL history. So I want a quarterback that already has seen defenses that are somewhat comparable to an NFL defense. And that's what the SEC is. Playing Georgia, playing Alabama, there's a lot of players in the SEC who are going to the NFL. So the quarterbacks in the SEC have seen pro-like talent. This is the last thing I want to read as a Steelers fan, that the Pittsburgh Steelers have any interest in Jaxson Dart whatsoever. I know he ran a real complicated offense at Ole Miss. I've read it multiple times. He had excellent numbers. Well, if he has excellent numbers and he ran a super sophisticated offense, then why don't the scouts and everyone else talk about him like a sure lock, a guaranteed lock? How come? Because they see things that we don't see. They know things that we don't know. Could they be wrong? Of course they could. They're always wrong. But usually if you go in the first round, guys that quarterbacks from big time schools are usually sure things. I don't like the pick. Jerry Dulac has been told not to rule out Steelers drafting first round running back. Views rookie as starter over Jaylen Warren. While not in favor of it, Dulac wrote recently that he has been told not to rule out the Steelers using their first round pick on a running back. That would be consistent with some of the moves they've made, meeting with the likes of Ashton Gente, Omarion Hampton, and Travion Henderson, but they have also scheduled pre-draft meetings with quite a few mid-round prospects covering their bases. The Steelers have drafted a running back in the first round twice under Mike Tomlin, most recently with Najee Harris. They opted not to pick up Harris's fifth-year option and let him walk in free agency earlier this month. In the second season, Tomlin used his first-round pick on Rashard Mendenhall, who also did not see a second contract. Le'Veon Bell was a second-round pick in between and the most successful of the three. They attempted to sign him to a long-term deal, but he balked at the lack of full guarantees. But what about Jaylen Warren? The Steelers showed how they value him by tendering him at the second-round level, which comes with a contract north of $5 million. Despite that, Dulac believes the Steelers prefer to keep him in his current role as the second back or 1B. One reader asked Dulac if the Steelers plan to use Warren as the lead back or if they mean to draft a new lead back with Warren staying in his current role and working in with Kenneth Gainwell. I think what you envision at the end of your observation is what you will see, he replied. The Steelers entered the 2024 season committed to running the football. While they succeeded in principle via a volume approach, they were not terribly efficient. So basically, after all these rumors that come out, what do you learn as a Steelers fan? You learn absolutely nothing. You know why? Because they like this guy, they like a quarterback, they like a running back, they like a wide receiver. It's just like, don't rule out this, don't rule out that. You know what? At this point, every writer for the Steelers should just say, don't rule out any position, period. We'll talk after the draft. It's just hysterical. I think the Steelers should stick to the plan. Round 1, Ibuka. Your next pick needs to be a corner. And then the 2 after that need to be defensive tackles. And then you can go from there. Cam Hayward gave DK Metcalf the ultimate praise. Playing against DK has been some of the roughest times. The Steelers captain said on Good Morning Football, I think we played him the last time, and all we did was circle him every single play. He requires that much time and effort in just your film process, making sure you have a plan around him. So bringing him over, we're excited. A former second-round pick, Metcalf, before joining the Steelers, was a Pro Bowler for the Seahawks. Over 6 seasons, he caught 438 passes for 6,324 yards and 48 touchdowns. He spent the first half of his career working with former Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson, which were more productive scoring-wise. Last season, he dealt with some injury issues, which may have affected his effectiveness. This offseason, the Steelers sent a second-round pick to the Seahawks for DK Metcalf. They gave him a 5-year, $150 million contract, of which the first 2 years are guaranteed. That is the first time the Steelers have made such a gesture in a contract for a player from the outside, a not insignificant gesture. Quite obviously, the Steelers view Metcalf as a key part of their nucleus of their future. Despite 6 full NFL seasons under his belt, he is still just 27, so can certainly have another productive half-decade. Of course, it would help both parties if they could bring the quarterback dilemma to a close. Cam Hayward also went on to say, I'm excited to bring him onto a team. I feel like him and George Pickens can create a lot of matchups that work in our favor. I'm going to end it with this ridiculous statement from a former GM. That's why he's a former GM. Trading up to draft quarterback Shedeur Sanders is ideal scenario for Steelers. I guess you didn't watch any of the games this year, because if you watch BYU and Oregon in the All-22 film, you would know that Shedeur is a third or fourth round pick at best. That's why you're no longer working as a GM. Former NFL general manager Mike Tannenbaum believes the Steelers would be wise to trade up to select Colorado's Sheduer Sanders. Oh yeah, Tannenbaum from the Jets. Yeah, what a great organization they've been. Let's listen to Tannenbaum, the idiot. I think an ideal scenario here is for the Pittsburgh Steelers to trade up from 21. Tannenbaum said Friday on ESPN's Get Up. In my mock draft, I had them going up to 10 with Chicago and getting a starter in Sheduer Sanders at 10. I think that's a great win-win for both the Steelers and Sheduer Sanders. Give me a break. I'm going to end it with that. I've said the same thing a million times. If it wasn't for this year's quarterback draft class being so weak, Sheduer Sanders would be a third or fourth round pick. Watch the BYU game. Watch the Oregon game, watch the USC game, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about Sheduer Sanders. I'm done.